Hey guys, it's Jeremy here, Metal Music Meltdown, back with another video. What I have for today, guys, is another album review. Checking out the mighty Cannibal Corpse with their 16th studio album entitled Chaos Horrific. Just dropped yesterday, September the 22nd, 2023 via Metal Blade Records. Again, like I said, it's their 16th studio album from the death metal veterans. It's got 10 tracks, it's 39 minutes in length, so pretty quick. Most of the songs are 3 to 4 minutes each, which is pretty standard for these guys. Usually don't have songs too long. Really good artwork, typical Cannibal Corpse, really gory, kind of gruesome looking stuff. Always love their album artwork. And they continue the same themes as they always do, which is gore, death, torture, cannibalism, zombies, etc. And diehard Cannibal Corpse fans will be happy to see song titles such as Pitchfork Impalement, Fracture and Refracture. Always some gory stuff in their lyrics and titles, etc. So that never disappoints. I'm not a huge death metal guy in general. I've said that on the channel many times before. But Cannibal Corpse is one of those bands I really enjoy. There's something about their sound and that I always kind of gravitate towards. It's one of the few bands I really kind of pick up their new stuff every time. So I was really excited to hear a new album from them. I'm definitely more into the earlier 90s death metal, like these guys when they came out, Obituary, etc. Not too many new metal bands I'm into, death metal bands I should say. But let's jump it in, guys, before the video is too long. If I had to summarize this album in one word, it's brutal. It's just fucking intense. It's brutal all the way through. Super, I think even more brutal than the previous album in 2021, which I really enjoyed. That was my number 6 on my list, I think, of the end of the year. But opening track, Overlords of Violence, pure banger, opens up with this really cool bass line and then goes right into straight brutality and aggressiveness and speed. A lot of technical riffs mixed in there as well. The second song, Frenzied Feeding, is kind of the same, much of the same. Very intense, blast beats, technical riffing, and speed and aggression. And then I found the next 3 songs, Summoned for Sacrifice, Bloodblind, and Vengeful Invasion. All kind of had a slightly different twist to it. Really good riffing on these songs still, but they slowed it down a notch. Not quite as intense in speed, but they had more chuggy riffs in there, more mid-tempo stuff, which I personally prefer. I'm the weird guy for Cannibal Corpse who prefers their more mid-range stuff and mid-paced stuff over their super high octane, like super fast stuff. I really enjoyed these 3 songs in the middle, probably 3 of my favorites on the album, to be honest with you. I just like how they had more of a blend of even some a little bit more melodic riffs mixed in there as well, a little bit more groove, not quite as straightforward brutality. And yeah, I like those 3 songs a lot in the middle. And then the next one was Fracture and Refracture, or sorry, the title track, Chaos Horrific, number 6. Right back to the brutality, a little bit more thrash elements in this one. Very fast pace, blast beats, great vocals again. The mix on this album was my kind of one gripe, if there was one. I found at times it sounded very dense, but in a bad way sometimes. I found Corpse Grinder's vocals were kind of drowned out by the guitars at times, and you couldn't really hear them that well, or it wasn't very clear. And that part I didn't really like too much. I found on the previous album he was a little bit more forward in the mix. I think that was a little bit better. I find the guitars are more to the forward in this one, which is great because the riffs are amazing. But I found the mix in this one to be a little bit off. Like I said, a little bit dense, and the musicianship wasn't, you couldn't really pick up the instruments quite as independently. It sounded at times more too dense and almost like a wall of noise. Like you couldn't distinguish the instruments at times, which I didn't like personally. And continuing with the tracks, Fracture and Refracture, Pitchfork Impalement, back to straight up brutality, some mid-pace stuff mixed in there as well. Great solos in Fracture and Refracture halfway through. Really enjoyed the solo on that one. Just guitar riffs all over this thing, really crazy stuff. And then the Prestentio Rictus, again straight for brutality, super heavy track, really aggressive. It had some chugging riffs in there, which I really liked, really got my head banging, but it kind of similar to the tracks before it. And then the last track, Drain You Empty, Had a really cool kind of doomy opening. I really enjoyed that. It kind of separated it from the other tracks. Very doomy, atmospheric opening, which I really liked, and then straight into the brutality and speed. But overall, was not disappointed. It's kind of what I expected as a follow-up to the previous album. You kind of know what you're going to get with Cannibal Corpse, brutal death metal, which is normally not my thing. At times, it can be a little bit much for me, to be honest with you. I prefer a little bit more on the melodic side. I think that's why I gravitate more towards melodic death metal over just straight death metal. But I do like this album a lot. Didn't let me down at all. Amazing riffs. The main pros in this album were the riffs. The technical riffs all over the place. Good variation, experimentation. A lot of technicality, a lot of chuggy riffs, a lot of high-speed, brutal riffs. A good blend of riffs mixed in there to kind of change it up. I think that was the highlight personally. And for the cons, some of the songs kind of blended together. If you played one of these songs blindly, I probably couldn't tell you what it's called, to be honest with you, without hearing the chorus or the main line. So that's the one thing I don't like about death metal at times. The music kind of blends together at times. Standard tracks overall, the opening track was friggin' awesome, super brutal and speed. I love that opening. It really got my head banging right away. And then the three in the middle, Bloodblind, Vengeful, Invasion, and Summon for Sacrifice, were the other ones that kind of really stood out to me. And then I really enjoyed the kind of doomy opening of the final track. I thought it was a good way to end the album. So let me know down below, guys, what you thought of the album. If I had to give this a ranking, I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10, maybe a 8. No, 7.5. I thought the previous album was a little bit better overall, to be honest with you, after a couple listens. This might grow on me a little bit more over time, but I think I prefer the previous album a little bit more. It kind of hit me harder. I found the previous album to have a little more groove to it, a little more, hard to explain, like more, not melody, but more groove, I guess, to it. If I was comparing this in terms of death metal releases for the year so far, I still think Obituary is better than this album, in my opinion. The new Obituary album is just killer, has more groove in it, more rhythm. I kind of prefer that album, to be honest. And the mix on that album I find is a little bit better as well. And I probably put this at a close second for my death metal releases of this year, kind of tied with Frozen Soul. I thought their Frozen Soul album was fucking killer, and this is pretty much on par with that. But in terms of the death metal giants, at this point I'd have to give it to Obituary, in my opinion. Okay, guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down below your thoughts on the album, pros and cons, and how it compares to other death metal releases this year. And until next time, guys, keep it metal.